If you have an anxious attachment style and you recently broke up with your partner, watch this video, because in this video, I'm going to explain you the number one mistake people make after a breakup. Something that maybe you're doing without noticing, something that is actually preventing you from not winning the breakup, but learning from this breakup. Whether you want to get back with your ex, whether you want to move on, usually people who have an anxious attachment style always make this mistake, and I'll explain everything after the jingle. What you have to understand is when you have an anxious attachment style, usually what you fear is the disconnection, is not the breakup. What you miss is not your partner, is the relationship. When you have an anxious attachment style, you have a deep fear of abandonment. That's like usually the predominant wounds in people who have an anxious attachment style. And so what happens is the breakup would reopen this wound and would activate your nervous system. You'll be in panic mode, basically. And so what's going on is when we are triggered, when our nervous system is activated, what we want is it to stop. Like an alarm going off, you want it to stop, right? And so the thing is, the problem is how you want to stop this alarm. The problem is you feel by connecting with this person, by asking them to clarify their decision, you're trying to solve a problem with the wrong method. Again, I'm not saying that it's not normal or that you're being weak or too emotional, that you have this sense of urgency that is unbearable. It's very personal, and in a way, everybody will experience this if you have an anxious attachment style, this pain and this anxiety based because of that fear of abandonment. And so the thing is, yes, you seek comfort. Yes, you want this to stop. Yes, you want to stop feeling anxious. But the problem is how you're doing it. The problem is not the symptoms. The problem is that the medicine, the actions you're taking to heal. The problem as well is that because you're scared, you're making decisions based on your nervous system, not based on what you need as a human being, as an adult. You're taking decisions based on a childhood response. And so the problem is, if you're not aware of this, if you leave your nervous system make decisions, you won't get any clarity. And this is where people make mistake, is that they let those unconscious drivers take the lead, make the decisions. And that's what we'll discuss in this video, is how you can overcome this automatic process, which is, by the way, extremely powerful. Our nervous system, our system 1 brain, is extremely, extremely strong, more powerful and faster than the rational part of the brain. So we need to make the conscious effort to bypass those systems, and the value of therapy is how we can rewire this attachment system. I'm going to explain that in the next slide. So the number one mistake is that you reach out to stop the pain, is that you're using that person who actually created this pain in the first place to get that form of validation, which will give you that sense of relief. So you text, you call, you check social media, you want to be seen, you want to be validated. Understand that when you do, yes, you're going to be relieved. Yes, they are around. Yes, they still care about you. They haven't moved on. They are maybe not in a relationship yet, or you don't know. And so you get that relief. They haven't forgotten me. But the problem is that will give you medium term, not even long term. I wrote long term, but medium term, some regret. Because the problem is you're going to hand them over your emotional control, your emotional stability. And you give it back to the person, the same person who created this response in the first place. And studies have shown that when you have an anxious attachment style, you seek quick reattachment very quickly. The problem is some people seek that reattachment with their ex, and they create a condition of like, I'm trying to get something he or she doesn't give me, and therefore I feel even worse than before. And also, if you're dating someone avoidant, you're making it worse because you're pressuring this person. Or sometimes it happens, people will rebound quickly to another relationship, thinking like, I need someone to validate. If I'm in a relationship, then I'm happy. I can be myself. What you have to do, and the work that you need to start now, is to understand that your worth, your value, isn't a correlation of the relationship you have, isn't confirmed by the validation, the reply you get from your ex. When you start getting in touch with someone and you don't get that same level of investment, i.e. you're over-investing, they're not, you're preventing you from healing. You're slowing the process. And guess what? This is where you get obsessed. This is where you get frustrated. And this is where you get more anxious than before. So again, if I explain again, this breakup is tough on you. It reopened this deep fear of abandonment. And one way you found to heal or feel better is to connect with this person who is actually not willing at this stage to give you that reassurance, because they don't know what they want. Because if they broke up a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, they will give you the same answer. So if you're watching this video and it's been months that you broke up with your partner, it's probably because you haven't really let go of this idea that they need to give me that sense of validation. They need to give me those answers. So it's very important for you to detach yourself. And if you haven't, I urge you to start no contact should you want to heal and move forward. That's the only environment, that's the only framework that will allow you to finally do the work. Let me be clear on one thing. When you reach out, when you contact them, don't expect to gain any form of clarity. The thing is, yes, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, right? And you have every right to seek those answers and maybe get that closure. The problem is, by experience, and I've helped a lot of people in your situation, what you will get is cold, distant, very confusing replies. And so the result is that you're starting from a point of like, you're very anxious, you're stressed, and you're contacting with your partner or your ex to be reassured. But then it's even worse, right? So you're hoping to get something and the outcome is even worse than you hope. And so the problem is that you create that dynamic where you're triggering yourself again and again. You're creating what we call the emotional loop, on and off, that is not helping you to move forward. It's actually keeping you stuck, right? Going in circle in a way. The thing is, and it's very hard to understand, that clarity is something you will find on your own. That awareness, those answers are something you have to find within. It sounds a bit weird because you're thinking, okay, they took the decision to break up, I need to figure out what I can do best, etc., etc. Yes, fair enough. But the problem is that when you have this sort of mindset, and part of the answer is with your ex, this is how you start ruminating on things. The way to create anxiety in people's brain is to ask yourself questions you don't have answer to. It's very simple. That's how you create anxiety. And so the point is to accept that this person will disappoint me at this stage. Again, we're talking about few weeks, few months after the breakup, if they are not willing to have a proper conversation. And even right after a breakup, I think it makes sense to have that phase of no contact on your own, reflecting on things. It's very important because, again, by connecting, by trying to reach out, you will A, pressure them, and B, will be disappointed and even more anxious than before. What you have to understand also is it's not a question of being needy or too emotional. It's because you've activated your nervous system. It's an attachment response from your fear of abandonment. And the thing is, even your body would crave that connection. Studies have shown that breakups can also activate the same area in the brain as physical pain. So the thing is, yes, you need something. Yes, you need connection. Yes, you need to be reassured. But the person you're getting that reassurance from is not the right person at this stage. Right? So this element of regulation is something you have to build within yourself. The point here, and that's the value of therapy, it's the value of coaching, is understanding that your feelings are valid. But you also need to pause when it's not helpful. The point is finding ways and tools to self-regulate. Because it's very much, it's not a question of willingness or whether you can do it or not. It's hardwired and it's something you can retrain, something you can work on. Now, with the advance in neurobiology, neuroscience, we know how to heal those things. It's very clear, and there's clear protocols of how you can feel better after a breakup. It's well documented, it's well studied. And techniques to self-soothe. Again, away from that need for validation and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing, is if you feel, when I talk to my friends, when I talk to my family, they're a bit fed up. They tell me to move on, but I can't move on. I can't. It's because somewhere in your operating system, somewhere in your attachment system, there's something telling you, I need this person to feel safe. So that's the thing you need to deconstruct and use emotional regulation to do so. And guess what? Healing starts when you stop outsourcing your safety. I'm not saying you can only be alone. You can only be happy if you're alone. That's not my philosophy. But if you want to have a healthy relationship, you need to implement what we call interdependence. So securely attached people, they have this view on relationship is that you're important. You're probably the most important person in my life, but I will also have my life. I will also find ways to not over-rely on yourself because I know you won't always be there. But when it matters, I can trust that you will be there. So it's finding the right balance. And again, the balance has to be found within the context of a relationship, and every single relationship is different, but it's this logic of again, if we go back to our childhood, I trust my parent, but I also trust myself. I can explore the world. I can develop my sense of autonomy, but if I'm scared, if I need some support, I know I can rely on my parents. So it's finding this balance. What you have to do right now is to design that life that will help you get that safety. So it's about routine, support, reflection. Reflection is a big thing. The work that you're about to start will be potentially the most transformational thing you would ever do in your life. That's why I'm helping people dealing with breakups, because I know it's usually, even though you don't feel this way, it's usually where people are on the verge of a huge transformation. Because right now, that pain, this anxiety, is your driver. Yes, I guess you would have hoped for another driver, for another way to get motivated. But right now, yes, use and fuel this desire to move forward, to work on yourself. By experience, having worked again with not thousands, but hundreds of people now, breakups can be helpful. They will allow you to see those blind spots, things that you kept hidden, that you didn't want to notice, that you didn't want to see, but that affected the relationship. In other words, if you want to have a successful relationship, whether it's with your ex or with someone else, this is your goal. You have to do the work. You have to address those insecurities. And right now, it's about choosing yourself. Right now, it's about focusing on the tiny actions, focusing on the routine, focusing on the social support, focusing on how to self-regulate. That's the only thing that matters, and you're paving the way, if you have the right structure, on how to feel better. It's not about getting back together. It's not about having the best relationship ever. It's about finding yourself. I've designed a course that I called Reconnect. It's like 9 modules to really help people do this work of introspection. R stands for reflection. E is for empowerment. C is for communication, etc., etc. The point is, I wanted to do it's quite big, but at least everything is covered, a course for people who are in that situation right after a breakup. They want to reach out. They don't know where to start. They're watching my videos. They're watching other videos. They're learning a lot. But to me, it's not a question of learning. Now it's a question of doing. So have a look in the description. There's a link should you want to invest in your personal development and learn more about this. It's a framework that I basically use with my clients. That's how I came up with this framework. Use it with yourself. And let me know in the comment section how you find it. Let me know also in the course if you have any questions, anything. I will also make updates. So anyone who would purchase the course would have tons of bonus. We're about to do some private coaching sessions, workshops, and also bonuses, etc. So have a look in the description. If you have any question, let me know in the comment section. If you like this video, don't forget to click on like. I always forget to say that. And if you find my videos helpful, don't forget to subscribe as well. I don't feel we are enough learning and healing together. Take care of yourself. Bye.